Okay, so the one box system is a pretty simple setup. You have the exhaust that comes in from the engine up there through the bellows, around there through the clamp, and into the front chamber, we'll call it. And that goes in, it comes through both of these DOCs here simultaneously. The diesel oxidation catalyst basically takes any kind of raw fuel or anything close to raw fuel and absorbs it and burns it off during regeneration. It doesn't collect soot, it's not supposed to catch soot, and it doesn't convert it into ash. It just converts the hydrocarbons, if you will, and also it heats up during the regeneration process as an oxidation catalyst. It increases the temperature with a chemical reaction. So I've removed the DPFs obviously from this system already. So airflow from the engine comes in through here and goes into this front chamber in the box, and this is all welded together as an assembly. It comes through both of these diesel oxidation catalysts and goes through the DPF assemblies, which I have sitting over here. And once it gets the soot filtered out going through here and all the exhaust is clean of soot, it enters the rear chamber. It goes in. You can see these are joined together in the back. Both of those just go into one simultaneous chamber there. Once it goes through there, you can see that that's welded off on the inside. All the exhaust is channeled down into, Cummins calls it a decomposition tube. I don't know what it is on these, but this tube here, both of these, after it goes through the DPF, it comes into both of these and goes down, goes through, and then goes back around the bottom of this box, which is a separate section from the top. It goes into the bottom, and it goes around, and goes back out both of these side-by-side SCR, selective catalytic reduction systems. And this is where the DEF is injected. You can see it on the back side. The DEF injector sits right there. That causes a chemical reaction with the exhaust that's already been cleaned of soot. Because the chemical reaction inside of this tube is to change the composition of the exhaust that's going through, and once it meets the SCR, it reduces the nitrides of oxygen and reduces it to almost zero. Obviously you'd have to monitor all these things during regeneration to know the health and all that stuff of what's operating here. As far as serviceability, you can remove the DEF injector, you can service it, clean it, you can replace it if you want to. The DPFs, obviously, diesel particulate filters, both of those are removable and serviceable. They're cleanable if they're not destroyed, and the gaskets and everything are widely available through several outlets. The DOCs are not removable or cleanable as far as I'm aware of. This assembly that you're looking at now is all one piece. So from the front of the box here across all the way to here has to be purchased as one assembly, because all of these, this and the two SCRs, are made into the box. You can't remove them. They're slipped into the end there with the gasket around them, and they cannot be taken apart. As far as I know, maybe I'm wrong, but I called Freightliner to get prices on everything. Obviously you can see that, and you can buy this assembly without the DPFs in it for this much. Our price anyways, with the core, blah blah blah. Anyways, so that's the only item that's serviceable on the one box. I had to remove the side cover obviously and the steps and all that stuff to get access to it, but once you get in there it's pretty easy. A basic review of the sensors and their operation. So this is going to be your DOC inlet temperature sensor, obviously because it's right here where the inlet gas comes into from the engine, and then this is your primary pressure sensing tube for the DOC, or it's also listed as a DPF inlet pressure sensor because it's before the DPF and there's no other sensor between that point actually on the DPF. So they use this as a reference for the pressure going in, and then this is the DOC outlet temperature obviously because it's right there at the outlet of the DOC. So these two monitor temperature in and out during low temp and normal regions to determine the efficiency of this DOC. Now obviously, since there's not a sensor in the back on this DOC, there's no way to measure the efficiency on that DOC or monitor it through a scan tool, or with the ECM it won't monitor it. So you have to I guess, do visual inspections and replace it if it's under question. That's all I can say. The next sensor is the DPF outlet pressure sensor tube. Both of these tubes go up to an adapter here with a little rubber hose, and then the sensors on the back side, you can see it's shrouded there for the heat detection. But both of these tubes go to sensors. They read the pressure differential between the inlet and the outlet and determine how much soot load is in between. This is the DPF outlet temperature, obviously, and it tells what the temperature is after it's gone through all of this to make sure there's no issues. And then this sensor over here is a NOx sensor, not like an old Chevy NOx sensor, but a NOx sensor, nitrides of oxygen. It detects the amount of nitrides of oxygen in the exhaust stream and tells the ECM what's going in. So you can see that sensor sticks right down into where the exhaust gas comes out of the DOC through the DPF and exits into the rear chamber here. So this is where the outlet temp of the DPF is and the initial NOx sensor. The importance of that sensor is to know how much damage to the environment is going to be done with nitrides of oxygen. Apparently, according to the EPA, they're very harmful and they must be reduced. So, according to the last tier of regulations, EPA 10 and 14, greenhouse gases need to be reduced. So they did all that to reduce greenhouse gas. So once it goes through, it comes through down to the decomposition tube with the DEF injector. It goes through, comes out the other side, it goes into the SCR, and let's see if I can get a look at it. The outlet NOx sensor is on the back. I'm not sure if you can see it there or not, but it's right there before the exhaust goes out of the box. It comes out and goes up the stack and out to the atmosphere as nitrogen and H2O, if I'm not mistaken. I'll have to read up on that for sure. But anyway, so that's a basic overview of how the one box works. So this is an engine with a 7th injector. They don't inject diesel on the exhaust stroke in the cylinders just because it's harder on the engine oil and everything else. It's a lot more efficient, so they put a diesel injector on the exhaust tube right behind the turbo in an adapter pipe, and it is serviceable. You can pull just the injector out of the body instead of pulling the whole injector out like on a Cummins where you have to drain the coolant and everything else. You could just take the injector out, service it, but it is recommended that you take the entire thing off so that you can clean any soot buildup on the back so that you don't have a recurring issue in a short amount of time instead of having a long-lasting repair. Otherwise, that's about all I know about this thing. If there's something I missed or something I don't know, let me know, but that's about all I know. Thanks.